The sense of community, sense of family is completely palpable. And Dr. Weber, well, he's impressive.
He is.
What I saw in person today was almost enough to override what I see on paper, but not quite. As caring as all of you are, you simply do not have enough surgeons to maintain an effective teaching program. Dr. Bailey, it hurts me to say this, but I'm going to have to place Grace Sloan's residency program on probation, effective immediately. We will provide a list of specific improvements that need to be made, and we'll be back for another review in a few weeks. A few weeks?
We always give hospitals time to rectify matters before we shut down their residency programs.
Good luck, Dr. Bailey.
Researchers studied why some people perform better on tests.
Okay,
They found that it's not necessarily related to intelligence.
Thank you very much. So, guys, what was happening over here? Can somebody tell me?
Good news was being given.
Certainly, good news was being given. Was it good news?
I think it's all a matter of perspective. Any news is taken good or bad according to your own perspective. I'm not saying it on a lighter note. I really mean it. It's how we create our opinions and how we create judgments. So if my opinion is for looking for, how to improve my program, and I'm not being judgmental for my own program, that my program is the best, then I will certainly take in a different vein.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
That was the feedback that was provided, and it was almost one way, and that was not much interaction of the program which was evaluated and the person which was being told everything.
Yeah. So there was just a decision that was being conveyed, right?
Yes.
So there was no discussion, there was no to and fro, but there was a decision and that decision was happening on the basis of what would you call, what ज़हन में क्या ख्याल आया कि क्या हो रहा था ग्रेस लोन के साथ? ग्रेस लोन का accreditation visit हुआ था, right?
कोई विजिट हुआ था, फीडबैक था, लेकिन that was like कि बस उसको एक किस्म का हरास किया जा रहा था.
That is certainly one way of looking at it, that this was harassment. But the other way was that how many of you have had feedbacks like this? आप सब लोग higher education institutions को head कर रहे हैं, programs को head कर रहे हैं. So how many of you have had such feedback, such decisions being conveyed to you?
This is not like this. They communicate through hard and soft copies, not in a personal interview.
Yes. So in our setup, generally, वो कागज का फर्रा आ जाता है चलता हुआ कि जी आप probation पे हैं या आप you are not being recognized or you're being recognized. But this was a more in-person sort of a thing that had happened face to face. Acha, I will request Rabia for you to please look at the chat, क्योंकि मैं ये multitasking नहीं कर सकती हूँ. I have an issue with looking at the chat as well as conducting the session. So if there is any burning question over there, Rabia, please interrupt and let me know, and we will address that question.
Dr. Shams has asked that, is this session being recorded, and have we conveyed decisions like this to others?
Okay. भाई इत्तफाक है शम्स, I've never been part of accreditation. एक दफा हुई थी accreditation team के visit का part, लेकिन नहीं रही हूँ. So I do not have the honor of giving such decisions to people. That I've been part of a team maybe, but never. Okay, so the session today that we are having was related to the, just to set the stage for the discussion that we are having now. And it is about accreditation of institutions, and we are focusing on accreditation of institutions educating healthcare professionals. So it's not general education. Is my slide visible to all?
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So, G. Somebody wanted to say something? Okay, so I just want to share with you, this is something that was said in 2010, Lancet का एक है study का कि present content organizations and delivery जो है, that has failed to serve the needs and interests of patients and populations. Now, Lancet is certainly उसके जो publications होती हैं Lancet की, they are all very, very detailed, researched, and big names participate in the researches that are published in Lancet. So this certainly says something, right? And हमारी जो हमारी quest है, ultimately, whatever we do, whatever step we take, whatever direction we want the education to move to, ultimately it is for betterment of healthcare, betterment of patients and population's health. तो यहाँ पर हमें एक point of view नजर आ रहा है कि अभी भी लोग इतने खुश नहीं हैं, और जहाँ के हालात बहुत अच्छे हैं वहाँ भी there are issues. तो हम अपनी तो क्या बात करें कि हमारे जो issues हैं वो तो unsurmountable लगते हैं, and accreditation in itself may not be the only way, may not be the only tool to provide, to take care of the interest of patients and population, but it can always move things in a certain direction. So this session that we are going to take, ये हमारे 3 sessions हैं जो हम आपके साथ करेंगे. The purpose जो इस all 3 sessions का है वो यहाँ लिखा हुआ है. It's something about the knowledge of accreditation, how things are done, what documentations are required, and how we can use the results of accreditation for improving the quality of education in order to achieve the best patient care, and in order to develop competent physicians, nurses, allied healthcare professionals who can take care of the health of the people around them. 3 है. आज का जो हमारे यूनिट है उसमें हम purpose and significance of accreditation की बात करेंगे, whereas in the second one we will be working for how to prepare for an accreditation or inspection visit, and the third one will be okay, when we get the results of the accreditation team, how do we plan for quality improvement. As very rightly said by Shams at the start, कि अगर हमें ये पता चलता है accreditation के visit के बाद कि we are not up at the, up to the mark, and we are failing in certain areas, this motivates us to make some changes and to improve things. और अगर हमें हर चीज कही जाए कि बिल्कुल ठीक है, so that probably is not a good accreditation visit that has happened, because there is certainly something that can be improved upon. तो ये मैंने आपको एक overall view दिया था कि how are we going to carry on with this part of the program. These are the outcomes that we are looking at, that you will be able to recognize key accrediting and regulatory entities and understand the impact on health education institutions, then plan and develop a system. Because ultimately, बात ये है कि accreditation visits should not come at a surprise, and people should not be running at the last minute to try to gather data. There needs to be a system in place whereby all the required data is being gathered every day, so that at the end जब आपको अपने summary चाहिए, तो the data can come at a click of a button. So it's not that उस last minute में scramble कर रहे हो कि how are we going to complete these forms, and how are we going to provide evidence. So we will really want I think unit 2 में जब हम ये बात करेंगे planning for an accreditation visit, so we are really going to talk about what are the data documentation methods and forms and systems that need to be in place, so that you are able to have a very pleasant experience with the accreditation visit. And of course, last is very important, how to utilize the review. तो ये हमारे outcomes थे. आज का जो session है वो हमारा पहले unit जो unit 1 है, उसमें basically it is just to develop an understanding of what is accreditation, why is it important, who are the people who are accredited, what are they looking for, and we will culminate on what are the issues and problems faced during accreditation, and we are going to use this data that you're going to provide us of the issues and problems that you all have faced during accreditation to develop our next unit. तो लिटरेचर तो हमें मिलता ही है, उसमें बहुत कुछ लिखा हुआ है, लेकिन टू मेक इट रेलिवेंट to your needs, we would like, we will build up on the responses that we get from you as a result of item number 5 listed over here. If there are any questions, please raise your hand, stop me. You don't need to wait till कि मैं सांस लेने के लिए रुकूंगी तो आप कुछ कहेंगे. आप अपना यकीनन raise your hands and let me know if you want to ask anything, you want to add anything. This is a mutual learning activity. I learn from you and we learn together, right? Okay, so now I want a response. If you want, you can write on chat, and I am going to open the chat now to see. So the question that I'm raising is, what is accreditation? आप लोग सब involved रहे हैं.
It's
जी.
the process of any department or any institutions which makes predefined criteria for certain courses, and that is have certain different areas with certain marks and cutoff ratio to be qualified for that accredited status.
Okay, so there are some marks that are given. There are certain, आपने जो बात की, आपने कहा कि there are certain criteria, there are certain marks that are given, and on the basis of that,
a grade is
decision.
assigned. A grade is assigned, and place is accredited that look, you are complying to these requirements, and these you are not. These are your areas of improvement.
So it is a whole process, right? It is a
It's an
whole
input
process,
process.
right?
It's
So
an
it is,
input process, and
yeah.
it can be institutional and it can be professionally as for a person as well. For you know, if a surgeon is working in a specific place and wants to shift to another institution, then he or she has to be accredited for certain specific procedures.
Yes, and that's called credentialing, right?
Dr. Saida Bano has written that it is officially recognizing someone as having a particular status.
Right, very good. And so it is very right कि it is a जो चीजें इसमें बहुत important निकल के आ रही हैं, जो सब लोगों ने थोड़ी थोड़ी कही हैं, स्टैंडर्ड्स की बात हुई है, क्राइटेरिया की बात हुई है, accreditation body की बात हुई है. Shams, can you explain what you meant by an input process?
When I say an input process, the institute that's going to be accredited has to develop their processes which are based on continuous quality assurance. So if you are developing a process which is aligned with the standards and your quality continuously is being evolving, that is the process that the accreditation agency also looks at. Because if you're talking about quality assurance, just not the end product, it is also the process.
So it is not quality assurance, it is continuous quality
Yes.
improvement,
Yes.
right?
Yes, it is.
शिराज मोहम्मद अली शिराज साहब ने पूछा है कि is accreditation and recognition same? What do you think, Shiraz? I would like to know your point of view.
I think recognition is part of accreditation.
Okay. Who recognizes?
Authority bodies, authority, regulatory bodies.
Regulatory body who has the authority.
Yes. So they accredit and then they recognize, right? They recognize. These are two terms that we are using. In usually the term that we are using for accreditation is accreditation. I know that Pakistan Medical and Dental Council uses the term recognition, but the other bodies globally and nationally use the term accreditation rather than
Both
recognition.
are interchangeable.
We are using it interchangeably. However, it just means that they are recognizing that this institution has the capacity to train institutions, right? असल में कुछ terms हमारी जो है ना वो पहले से चली आ रही हैं, जैसे inspection है. पीएमडीसी अभी भी उसको या सीपीएसपी अभी भी उसको इंस्पेक्शन कहता है. इवन एचईसी आई थिंक वो इंस्पेक्शन नहीं कहता. तो it's not inspection. It's more like a review. It's more like a review where people are going to go and see whether your processes are working, whether your content is working, whether you have the right you have the right mix of people. अभी आपको जो क्लिप दिखाया था उसमें क्या चीज थी, उसमें फैकल्टी नहीं थी उनके पास, ठीक है ना? So whether you, so there are different aspects that are being looked into, reviewed, and then they are and then a feedback is given whether the institution is capable of running a program or not. So very rightly said, it is however we need to know that it is formal. इसके अंदर भी अगर आप देखें इस very recent definition जिसके अंदर वो सारे words आए हैं जो आप लोगों ने इस्तेमाल किए हैं. It is I will appreciate if the participants could just mute themselves. Thank you very much. It is the process. It is a process. It is evaluation of an educational program or institution or systems. Then there's a term called defined standard. किसी ने third party कही थी. Yes, it's an external body. और purpose जो है वो quality assurance and enhancement है. So those are the key words that I used. And an earlier definition also says the same thing, which says that it is a process. Now, पहला जो है वो broader definition है और ये 2014 का है. It's a little earlier. और ये भी वही बात कह रहा है कि whether it recognizes if the program meets and satisfied the standards and criteria that are already laid down. And these criteria, mind you, are laid down by national and international bodies, but then we have to be cognizant of the contextual realities of that particular institution. Yes, Dr. Shiraz?
By looking at this definition, we can say that accreditation is totally by an external body, whereas recognition can be made by an internal body as well.
I really don't know. I don't see anything over here saying that it is by an internal or recognition की बात तो ये नहीं हुई. बात तो वही है ना कि कोई association या agency है जिसको ये task दिया गया हो. I can't stand up today and say, okay, I'm going to go and inspect Dr. Shiraz's institution. If I am giving the mandate, if I have been given the mandate, and I am part of an body or an agency that is given the task of accreditation, then I can come and accredit you. And then my accreditation will hold some value. Otherwise, आप कहेंगे आप कौन? आप कुछ भी कहते रहें, हमें कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. Right? Yes, Rabia?
Dr. Shams has written that is certification the goal of an accreditation process? And yes, so there's a comment by Dr. Shams.
Yes. So thank you, Rabia. So yes, at the end of the day, you are certified whether the institution is capable of running that program, has the capacity and the resources to run a program effectively, efficiently. Otherwise, it may not, may not be given that certificate. Rabia, you have raised your hand again.
Dr. Moin is asking that, can he answer the question regarding the accreditation and recognition?
Oh, yes, Dr. Moin is here and he has been part of Pakistan Medical Commission. Why not?
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Pasar, for giving this chance and this very, very apt definition that you've given. Accreditation हमेशा जैसे आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा और यही उसकी definition है कि एक nationally recognized body से होती है, उसके अलावा नहीं हो सकती. That is one of the key functions of an accreditation. Recognition का लफ्ज इस्तेमाल हुआ है अभी जो recently वो सिर्फ WFME के लिए हुआ है कि WFME recognize कर सकता है और accrediting bodies. ये उसके context में ही use हुआ है. Otherwise, when a nationally accepted body approved by the government gives its judgment about the value of a program or an institution, that is called accreditation. और उसके अपनी जब accrediting body judgment होती है उसको recognition कहा जाता है.
Yeah, I mean that is the definition. मगर हमारे यहाँ normally जो College of Physicians and Surgeons है और Pakistan Medical and Dental Council है, they use the word recognition very frequently, and I think that is a misnomer.
Yes.
They should
Yes.
correct that
Yes.
particular two terms that they should take out of their dictionary is inspection and recognition.
But
And
inspection is a process which is worldwide.
I think inspection. Can
yes, please. Ji, sorry, sir, Professor.
can I talk? Inspection is a part of that
Yeah.
process. Inspection and recognition both are entirely different.
इंस्पेक्शन जो है ना वो बड़ा पुलिसिंग का वो देता है मतलब अब जब आप इंस्पेक्शन कहते हैं तो इंस्पेक्टर एंड यू रिमेंबर द इंस्पेक्टर्स हु यूज्ड टू कम इन आवर स्कूल एंड यूज्ड टू इंस्पेक्ट व्हाट इज हैपनिंग inspection is not a very friendly word. So sometimes the words that we use, the terms that we use, set up the tone of the interaction that's going to happen. So inspectors are always somebody who is considered, you know, मेरे जहन में एक पिक्चर आ रही है सफेद कपड़े पहने हुए कोई बंदा है जो चला आ रहा है सीटी और टोपी पहन के बट द थिंग इज दिस दैट देयर आर सर्टेन connotations that are attached with certain words. So inspection is not a word that is generally used. Review is the word that is generally used with respect to accreditation. तो ये है कि अगर हम terminologies को थोड़ी सी चेंज भी करें तो इसमें
Review
कोई
is
हर्ज नहीं.
there must be inspection can also be in certain
ठीक है
manner and
बिल्कुल
humble way. It's not necessary that it should be crude like policing, but
yes.
review is like you have already did some inspection and now there is some program that is being launched. Now it's being reviewed for feedback.
Okay. ठीक है चलिए that the words that are being used interchangeably, that's okay. So why is it important? We have already talked about it, so I don't think we need to belabor that. So we know that it is there to ensure the quality, promote quality improvement, and the basis of all of it in health professions education or in the education of health professionals is to provide optimal patient care and look after the health of the population. Ultimate goal जो है वो यही है किसी भी चीज का accreditation हो चाहे आप उसे inspection कहें review कहें कुछ भी कहें purpose जो है वो ये है कि optimal health care provide होना चाहिए to the patient and the population of that country. Right? The thing that is important is quality. Quality का लफ्ज जो है वो आप देखें ensure the quality of education, promote quality improvement, and provide optimal patient care. That is also related to quality. So the question is that I want you all to take a little time and think is, okay, what do you understand by quality in the context of educating healthcare professionals? And how do you think accreditation contributes to the overall quality of education? I would like you all to think about it and write in chat. मैं अपना chat box खोल देती हूँ, तो I will get some answers and that will be good. और अगर कोई hand raise करके बाद में कहना चाहे तो भी कह सकता है. The first question is, what do you understand by quality in the context of educating healthcare professionals, and how do you think accreditation contributes to the overall quality of education? Does anybody want to go first? Have I lost?
May I?
Oh, please. मैं तो समझी कि
got
जी डॉक्टर काशिफ आपने पहले हैंड रेस किया था.
When we talk about the quality for the entire education institute and professionals, eventually we're looking at the safe practice for the patient and training the students or the faculty to perform that action. हमारा एंड टारगेट ये होता है कि अगर सेफ प्रैक्टिस ना हो और इफेक्टिव प्रैक्टिस ना ऑन द पेशेंट तो वो डोमेन है जिसकी वजह से सारे इदारे बने हुए हैं. लेकिन इसमें और भी पैरामीटर हो सकते हैं जिसमें फैकल्टी है नॉन टीचिंग फैकल्टी है बट इवेंचुअली जैसे पार्ट 2 में मेरा जो एग्जामिनर बैठा था तो ही आस्क्ड हिमसेल्फ क्वेश्चन कैन ही बी माय रजिस्ट्रार दैट मींस इफ ही safe enough then I will pass you only. So I will reflect that information here कि हमें safe practice करने वाले professionals चाहिए. This is one big reasons to work for the quality.
Okay. तो हमारे पास कुछ लिखे हुए भी आ रहे हैं. Let's go through there. So Shiraz, Dr. Shiraz कह रहे हैं quality is degree of excellence of something, a measure of goodness, very rightly said. And then Professor Saleh कह रहे हैं it contains certain predefined standards to meet, right? Quality can be defined as the minimum criteria that should be there for any given task. Very good. That's right, Talia. Sabah saying quality is a standard measure. Accreditation makes us meet standards. So both सवालों के जवाब उन्होंने दिए हैं कि how do you think accreditation contributes to the overall quality of education? And I think Dr. Kashif ने भी उसके बारे में कुछ चीजें की कि there are different aspects that needs to be looked into in order to ensure that the quality is there and the quality is being practiced in the processes. And so can somebody tell me what are Salma says quality is to ensure that students get the appropriate level of educational skill that you can effectively use in practice. Very good, Salma. So I will move on to the next slide. I think these are very relevant answers that have been given. So there is an article that we have given you in the pre-readings. It is the role of accreditation in 21st century health professions education, a report that was published in BMC. And what they have really given over there in that, very nicely explained in that report, is that when we are looking at quality chain, then the quality of health professions, the education of the health professionals really starts from pre-admission education, which we call as inter-science or education that has happened before they enter into a medical or a nursing or an allied health professionals education institution, because that is also part of quality, and we sort of forget about it. We do not, I don't know, we do not consider that, although HEC is trying, but wo link nahi ho pa raha hai with health professionals education. Then of course, quality is seen through the admission and the selection process. How do you think quality of a program is affected by, and why should accreditation look into admissions and selections?
Can
Ji.
I comment?
Ji Kash.
Let me give you a small example. I will not name the name of the person. किसी ने कहा कि बच्चों की तरबियत कैसे होती है, तो उन्होंने कहा सबसे पहला जो स्टेप है अच्छी माँ का इंतखाब करना. सो आपकी एग्जाम्पल यहाँ डॉट फिट बैठ रही कि अच्छी माँ का इंतखाब करेंगे तो वो चीज़ें ट्रिकल डाउन आगे होंगी, और डिटेल में नहीं जाऊँगा क्योंकि अगर बच्चा प्री रिक्विजिटली उस कैलिबर का नहीं है जिसकी ज़रूरत है टू गो ऑन द लैडर नेक्स्ट, so that's why pre-education is so important. This is my small explanation.
Good, very good. Yes, pre-admissions education is important, and जो आपने बात की, because you see now it's not just the knowledge that is the focus of all learning. Now we know that along with knowledge and skills, there are certain important parameters of professionalism, of interpersonal skills, of communication, that you may not be able to teach integrity and honesty, and that you may not be able to teach in those 4 or 5 years that the undergraduate student is with you, or then even go into the residency programs. So therefore, this is very important to look into what the student is coming with before, when they are applying to the medical education programs. And hence admission and selection becomes very important, because that is the point where you can sort of separate the wheat from the chaff, and then take only those students who have the potential to move into becoming better competent physicians and surgeons and nurses and allied healthcare professionals that we are looking at. So what about learning environment? What do you think? What does the group feel? And now I will really like some other participants other than Kashif. Kashif, Professor Swale, and Dr. Shiraz. ये तीनों बहुत active हैं. I want others also to do. So Sabha ने भी एक आध point कहा है और Saida ने भी. But can we hear some more people?
Can I jump in?
Yes, please, Shams.
A learning environment definitely affects, and the evidence is there. Lots of educational institutes in Pakistan have measured how the learning environment has affected, the quality of education. I don't need to quote it, but I'll say it, the Dundee Reddy, dream inventory, people have used it. Because any attribute that is affecting human behavior, we try to measure and see how the measurement scale varies and how things can be improved. So I think the learning environment as well as the teaching environment, because that is another area which I think needs focus as well. Yeah? So those are the two things that I think need to be looked at.
Right, right. What are the things that come under learning? And you said teaching environment. Now, do you
Yes.
think why did you use the word teaching environment? Because
To me, the traditional approach has been as educators have tried to teach. And if the learning environment, the learner is not finding a conducive environment, they will never learn. But we have
yeah.
persisted with teaching. To me, teaching stops the moment the learner does not want it.
Can I say something?
Yes, yes, please, Saida.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, students who study in a positive learning environment, they have been shown to be more motivated, more engaged, and they have higher overall learning ability. If we encourage our students, they do good. And if there is encouragement at home, in the schools and everywhere, then students, they get motivated and there is more learning. So we have to encourage a positive learning environment.
Right. So what comes within the positive? Yes, Kashyap, what entails a positive learning environment? What are the things that an accrediting body needs to look into to identify whether the learning environment is positive?
Madam, देखिए, we know as a medical personnel that whenever there is a fight and fight response or a sympathetic mode trigger in an individual, उसकी creativity और learning खत्म हो जाती है. So कोई भी environment में बात करें, इसमें human का involvement हो या infrastructure हो या system हो, if it's not designed to relax, calm and promote with the positivity, so उस individual जो learner है, वो हमेशा fear factor में रहेगा. अगर fear में रहेगा, learning उसकी zero हो जाएगी.
So so the one thing that everybody is focusing on is a positive learning environment where the student is not stressed. Probably that's what flight and fight mode comes from there. And the student can learn in a conducive environment, right? So we have to tease it out, and we will tease it out later, not today, maybe in the next session. Okay, what are the things that come within a learning environment? When an accrediting body comes and is looking for quality, then what are the areas within a learning environment that are important for their accrediting body to look at for enhancing learning? Now we have curriculum and assessment, and of course, all of us understand that their curriculum content and the assessment needs to be aligned. There needs to be objectives. There needs to be a whole structure of the curriculum from basic to complex, from year 1 to year 4 or year 5, that it should be there, and that the assessment criteria with these are things that can be assessed and are looked into for validity and reliability of assessment methods, and evidence needs to be provided in order to see whether the quality is there or not of the process. Now, this is a document. So when we say curriculum and assessment, both of these things are documented and we can look at it. However, when we say learning environment, then learning environment does not only entail ticking boxes of whether itni kursiyan hain ki nahi hai or itne blackboards ya computers hain ki nahi hai, but it is also the usage of that particular resource that is available that is important for accreditation. So जब हमारी bodies, I mean आप लोगों को पाकिस्तान मेडिकल एंड डेंटल काउंसिल की accreditation का पता है और कॉलेज ऑफ फिजिशियन एंड सर्जन्स की भी accreditation processes होती हैं. Are they also looking at the processes? Or are they only tick marking the check boxes of presence or absence of certain resources that need to be there?
May I ask, may I reply?
Yes, Sabha, please do.
Acha, देखिए, most of the time we are supposed to tick mark those boxes, ठीक है, check boxes. I have acted as this very feared word inspector for both CPSB and PMDC.
Yes.
ठीक है, अच्छा. The thing is that none of these performers or the forms which are given to us, they ask for our individual opinions, overall opinions. They just give a check boxes. Is this present? Is this not? Is this available? Is this not? Is it applicable or not? Okay. So I find this listing, this checklisting, very, very fearsome thing and a very incorrect thing to do. देखिए, बहुत सारी चीजें होती हैं जो आपको कॉन्टेक्स्ट में, जैसे आप कह रहे हैं, देखना पड़ती हैं. हर चीज ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट नहीं होती.
So it depends upon the performer.
Yes, it depends upon the performer. Very good. And that's what Dr.
Is great
Sabha
for
is
their
saying.
system or their
Yes.
And
So what
yes.
I need is that what I have seen is, and I have talked about this to certain other people, that we should, the inspectors or whoever goes to review a program should be made to should be given some latitude. जैसे अब ये है, आपके पास अपने लैंड ओनरशिप के पेपर्स हैं या नहीं है, ठीक है. अब कोई ऐसा इंस्टीट्यूट है जो पाकिस्तान बनने से पहले का बना हुआ था और उसके पास इस वक्त लैंड ओनरशिप के पेपर्स नहीं है, ठीक है, तो 0, you're absolutely fail. ठीक है, वो आगे उसको कुछ देखना ही नहीं है, ये है तो ये नहीं है तो अच्छा 0. So, like I recently went through, my own institute went through an inspection recently, and the way the scoring was jumping from 0 to 2 to highest. ये है आपके पास. If someone said कि ये चीज, and if while the person was thinking about it, the inspectress marked 0, and then I intervened and said, no, excuse me, may I tell you, yes, we have this, look, take out from this file. And there is the proof. So,
Yeah, very nice.
suddenly the score changed.
Yeah.
So you see, I think there should not be the process of listing things that whether they're present or absent, or if there are, for example, my institute has a huge number of students in any batch.
Yeah.
All right. But I have an integrated modular system. So not every student is doing the same thing at the same time. So to ask me of having a certain quantity, कि जी 100 students के लिए इतनी होती है, तो आपके पास इतनी होनी चाहिए. तो भाई हम तो at a time 80 students को पढ़ा रहे हैं, 100 को भी नहीं पढ़ा रहे उस चीज से. So why should we be hoarding things?
Yeah, so Shams has raised a question, his hand, and he wants to ask a question. So yes, Shams?
Thank you, Dr. Kausar. Thank you, Dr. Kausar. My question, rather, I shouldn't say it as a comment, but isn't that what we should be prepared for beforehand, even before a review, or what you call the dreaded word inspector? Because I have inspected institutes and I've given them time. So what I agree with Dr. Sabha, but that is then becomes very subjective at times as well. You know,
Yes,
I may be a different inspector, but the checkboxes kind of gives you protection, because if your institute or my institute has prepared up ahead, you know, then I know what is the checkbox and what is the trail for that checkbox. I love using this word, trailing of documents, because to me, it's not a clerical job. It takes a lot of, input from administrators, from other people, educationists and the faculty, of how this process or the product that we are presenting has been reached. So I
Right.
think that's what the whole thing is.
Yes. So we are looking at two things over. Yes, Talia?
मैम थोड़ा सा डिफरेंट शायद हम टॉपिक से थोड़ा सा डिग्रेस
जी।
कर दें that ticking boxes is also associated with a lot other things because a certain score enables the institute to take up a certain number of students, to
Yes.
take up the fee to the tuition fee to a certain level. So when you have to have a certain score for keeping the ball rolling, you have to tick boxes. So either we हम दोनों चीजों को अलग रखें कि भाई आपके पास 4 कुर्सियां हैं तो आप जो है वो 4 लोग ले सकते हैं, 2 खड़े रह के भी पढ़ लेंगे तो कोई हर्ज नहीं है, लेकिन आपको 4 कुर्सियां मिलेंगी तो आप जो है ना वो इतने पैसे ले सकते हैं या इतने एडमिशन्स ले सकते हैं। तो जहाँ ये दोनों चीज़ें एक साथ आ जाती हैं, वहाँ शायद असल मकसद पीछे चला जाता है। तो इसलिए वो टिक बॉक्सेस तो होंगे,
Agreed.
this way or
So-
that way.
So what we are looking at over here is that both the things are important. It's not either or. It is that both of them have to be taken together, not just presence of things, but also looking at the utilization of things. And that is where probably we need to work more. And as Dr. Sabha was saying, that qualitative judgments and narrative is very important rather than just giving a score. And we are moving to narratives even in student assessment. So I think there is a need to move to narrative judgments and written reports with details rather than merely scoring and they. So हमें दोनों चीजें लेके चलनी है accreditation के अंदर जो बहुत important होती है. ठीक है? And that was the point that I wanted to make, that it has to be, it's not either or. Right? Yes, Rafia?
Ma'am, I think this accreditation form is very important because it enables you to make an objective scoring. Before the PMDC or CPSP comes to visit any institution, they actually provide the same accreditation form to the person who or the department who are going to be inspected. And before they come, they also check mark and these boxes and tick mark all these, and they identify their deficiencies. And before the inspection will take place, they usually overcome or they try to make these things available for the inspection, so that the standards or the quality which the accreditation committee or the inspectors they are coming to see, they want to achieve those basically standards. So
Very
I think
rightly.
this is very important before, because at least it takes 3 to 4 months. The whole process takes 3 to 4 months. They whoever the accreditation body, they used to provide 3 to 4 months prior to the inspection all the.
Yes, true. So therefore, what you're saying is very right कि self-assessment review जो होता है या self-review जो होता है, that is an essential part of the accreditation process and should happen before that. The only point that we want to make over here is the only point that we want to make over here and the discussion that I think. Sorry, रफिया अगर आपकी बात हो गई है तो hand down कर लीजिए please. Thank you so much. Okay, so we talked about curriculum and assessment. We talk about graduate competencies. They are also looked into because graduate competencies are directly related to the health outcomes. May I request Rafia to mute herself? Okay, then of course, what we do not look most of the time is at practice. What is really happening. That is what the point we wanted to make. कि practice नहीं देखी जाती है. Presence or absence of certain infrastructure and people and resources is generally looked into, and some feedback is taken from the students and the faculty. But of course, we are all aware of the preparation that goes before an accreditation visit. Ultimately, all of this is related to health outcomes. And when we accredit institutions, I think it will be nice to know कि ये जो institutions हैं, उनके हाथ से जो लोग निकल रहे हैं, वो हेल्थ आउटकम्स पे कितना असर कर रहे हैं। मगर जाहिर है ये चीज़ जो है वो एक्रेडिटिंग बॉडी के एम्बिट में नहीं आती है, वो फिर उधर से निकल के it's a larger research that happens, that what is happening to the health outcomes as a result of this entire accreditation की जो एक बहुत बड़ी it's a big undertaking. Accreditation is not a small undertaking. A lot of resources go into it. So therefore, it is important to know that what we want to do as a result of accreditation, वो हो भी रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा? Are competent people being graduated? Is it having an impact on the health outcomes? ये वो areas हैं जो अभी हम accreditation में नहीं देख रहे होते. और I don't know if we have any plans to go forward. Maybe Moin can comment on that later on. So this is the entire chain that we need to look into when we are talking about accreditation and education process and the impact of that educational process on the health of the patients and the overall population. So there are, these are the regulatory bodies which we are so much aware of. I am very happy to note that Allied Health की भी एक council बन रही है या बन गई है, and hopefully we will have another, logo over here about the Council for Allied Healthcare Professionals. Currently, these are the ones that we have. And then, of course, there's WFME, which does not accredit our institutions, but which recognizes the accrediting bodies in different countries, which until some time, I think now it's no longer a requirement, right?
Gee, it's not a requirement.
It's not a requirement anymore. So it created a lot of scare in many institutions in many countries across the world when WFME had said that we are going to recognize the accrediting bodies. However, this is no longer there. So that's a relief for a lot of people. And then, of course, whenever we are looking at accreditation bodies, we also look at some international accrediting bodies which do not accredit our programs but because we have so many students of ours who are going for higher studies or higher education in those countries, then we would like to know their standards also in order to prepare our students, in order to prepare our students so that they easily enter into their programs, and that a lot of learning takes place when we look at the accreditation criteria of North America. That is Canadian, also Australian, UK ka apna hai. There are a number of different accrediting bodies, and I think we need to look at them if not for any other purpose, then just to say, okay, how can we improve ours? Because वो भी एक continuous evolution के process में होते हैं, और ये documents जो हैं वो review होते हैं, shortcomings identify होती हैं, और चीजों को तब्दील किया जाता है ताकि बेहतर से बेहतर हम process को कर सकें accreditation के. So these are the things basically जो हमने chain देखी थी, तो उसके अंदर जो हमारी accrediting bodies हैं, HEC, PMDC, PNC, they look at these various aspects. Have I missed any aspect? Or does anybody feel there should be some aspect that needs to be added into it? मिशन पूछते हैं ना, मिशन स्टेटमेंट लिखा हुआ है कि नहीं लिखा हुआ है. और एक्रेडिटेशन विजिट से पहले बहुत से इंस्टीट्यूशंस को मैंने देखा है कि बहुत जल्दी से एक मीटिंग कन्वीन करते और एक मिशन और विजन स्टेटमेंट जरूर बन जाता है, विच इज देयर ऑन द पेपर. हाउएवर व्हाट इज इम्पोर्टेंट, व्हाट द एक्रेडिटेशन बॉडीज should look at is कि ये मिशन स्टेटमेंट तो है, but do people know about it? Is it common knowledge? Is the mission known by all? Or is it just a statement that has been churned up in the last couple of days and has been posted on the website? Or yes, Shams.
Madam, I know you have written there on second last line governance, services, and resources. My concern has always been the inspector or the reviewer who come in and looks at this. They do look at the check boxes, and now because of the checklist and everything, it's become kind of lesser of a debate or an argument that why is this being ticked and why is this not being ticked, because if you have evidence and trail. But the subjectivity is pretty high there, you know. Uh, when you talk about governance, how many of us have really understood governance, uh, in the academic arena? We've talked about clinical governance and corporate governance, but academic governance is probably something very new to our institutions. So, uh, that is the another bone of contention, I think.
Yes, but you see, Shams, what becomes easy is if you look at the standards that are there written under the governance services and resources section. So if you look at the governance and you look at the standards, then it becomes very clear what are we looking at, what are the accreditors looking at, what are the criteria that they have kept for governance, and it's very important to look at governance as the macro level, but also look at the management that is happening at the micro level. And I think हमारे भी जो accreditation forms हैं, they do spell these out, and they are much better explained by other international accrediting bodies, and we need to learn from them and incorporate those into our own national accreditation forms and standards that make it clear to the people कि governance का मतलब क्या है, governance से समझते क्या है. Yes, Rabia?
So we
जी,
have two comments by Dr. Samara.
Yeah.
She said that it is asked about in the performance too, and if the mission is known by the others. One comment is also by Dr. Sayyida Banu. She said that they ask about mission from different doctors and students.
Yes, they do. They do ask from people, but you must remember कि कौन select करता है students को. रैंडम तो नहीं होते ना, हम लोग आइडेंटिफाई करते हैं ना कि कौन मिलेगा उनसे कौन नहीं मिलेगा. देखिए, we have all gone through accreditation processes and we all know what is happening at large. So yes, वो ऐसे रास्ते में चलते हुए किसी को खड़े होकर नहीं पूछेंगे कि आपको पता है इस इंस्टीट्यूशन का मिशन क्या है. आप एक ग्रुप ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स को या ग्रुप ऑफ फैकल्टी को सिलेक्ट करते हैं, उनके साथ उनकी मीटिंग कराते हैं, एंड देन दे कम टू नो कि जी उनको पता है कि नहीं पता है. So
Ma'am,
anyways, there's nothing wrong in it. Yes,
Can I say
please,
something?
Saida.
जी मैडम,
Yes,
मैं
yes.
सऊदी अरेबिया में मैंने काम किया किंग खालिद यूनिवर्सिटी हॉस्पिटल में. तो उनकी कैनेडियन एक्रेडिटेशन टीम आती थी कैनेडियन एक्रेडिटेशन के लिए उस हॉस्पिटल को. तो वो तो जाते जाते किसी से भी पूछ लेते थे, किसी नर्स से, किसी मेडिकल स्टूडेंट से, किसी भी डॉक्टर से, और बहुत सारी चीजें ऐसे वो देखते थे, तो वो किसी से भी पूछ लेते थे.
बिल्कुल, तो हमें भी ये करने की जरूरत है ना, लेकिन हमारे यहाँ भी ऐसा नहीं होता है. ठीक है ना? Okay, so what I really want you all to look at is, and this is the task that I'm going to give to you all at the end of this session, कि आप लोग जो है वो go through the standards of your relevant organization, go through the standard of HEC and PMDC, or HEC and PNC. Do we have, we do have somebody from the nursing institution in our group, right? Munir, do we have?
We do not have anybody from the.
Oh, we don't. Okay. So I would really like the group to look into the HEC and the PMNDC criteria and identify what are the areas that they're looking at within each of these broad categories. And we will be discussing that in our next session. I would now like to move onwards because these are all very important. These are all very important. कुछ HEC देख रहा है, कुछ PMDC देख रहा है. Those of you who are involved in postgraduate education can also have a look at the CPSP document, accreditation document, and see कि उनके अंदर क्या चीजें हैं जो commonalities हैं और क्या चीजें हैं जो differences हैं. We will be discussing that also in our next. And अगर आप थोड़ा सा पढ़ के आएंगे, तो it will become more interesting for you all. So now we have a group activity for the last 10 minutes. Rabia is going to put you all into groups, and I would like you all in 10 minutes to identify the issues and problems faced by you, or those of you who have been involved in accreditation process, and those of you who have not. So what are the issues and problems anticipated by you during the accreditation process? So let's start with who wants to present first?
Room 3.
Room
Let's
3
start with
wants
the
to.
हमेशा पीछे वालों से.
बिल्कुल ठीक है, बिल्कुल ठीक है.
Screen sharing अगर allow कर दें, so I'll share my screen because you wrote it on PowerPoint as you.
तो मैं stop share करती हूँ.
Please, if
और Munib, can everybody share? Is Munib there?
yes, we can share. There we go.
Please, there you go. Thank you.
I think the option is open.
बस
We all
ठीक है,
can.
ठीक है.
Room 3.
Yes, I'm here, ma'am.
The problems we looked at was higher management issues, especially in private institutions, because higher management at times does not understand the process and the issues attached to accreditation. Lack of ownership, this came from QEC, because QEC feels that the role of the faculty is not understood by the faculty, and they think QEC has to run the whole show, present everything. Then there's a lack of leadership, which comes across strongly if you have a good leader in the form of a principal who keeps the ball rolling and keeps the documentation going. Then there's a lack of information about the whole process of how accreditation actually happens, what happens. Then a major issue was a lack of communication between different departments, different people who are involved in the process. And then the documentation trail, which was wonderfully put at the last 11th hour documentation. In fact, it's sometimes the 13th hour, which I've seen documents being prepared during the process. And I've accepted those documents because they were presented, but they had no trail to it. So then they
है ना, और आखिर में करते हैं तो spelling errors भी हो जाते हैं.
मैडम स्पेलिंग एरर्स नहीं होते, बस बहुत आसान है.
Yeah.
What I find is
Just a
you
joke.
just look at two things.
Yes.
What I used to do, you look at the font size.
Right.
Gives away everything.
ठीक है, सही. So
I stopped
okay.
sharing.
So thank you very much for that. So can we have group 2 present now? Group 2?
Yes, Dr. Kausar, let me share.
Ji, please.
So we discussed what are the challenges on ground for accreditation. We thought that the colleges may feel that this is very resource intensive. You have to commit so many staff members, training and everything going on. Then there is an issue of record maintenance. It has to be very vigorous, and you need to be really on your pros for recording every minutes and agendas and taking all the proofs. And what we thought was that the surprise visits shouldn't be there, and there shouldn't be uninformed entry into places where you are not supposed to go. So this is something that is very challenging to handle when these teams come there to visit, and without information it's like attending any place uninformed. So it is not every visit should be planned and informed pre-hand. Then there is an issue of staff training, whether it is new staff or the old staff. So we need to be continuously making them into teams and reminding them, okay, there are going to be visitors and this is how things are going to work. And finally, whatever, I think there is this general concept of attitude in our system as such that we tend to work in the last hour. The colleges, they wake up in the last hour. Okay, now the visit is coming. Now we'll start working. And now, like you said, even on the day of visit, papers are being prepared, but everyone just wakes up in the last moment. So even those departments, like for me in DME, we are prepared with every stuff, but we are dependent on other department. We are also suffering as well. So this is like a general staff attitude of delaying everything else when it shouldn't have been delayed and could have been done in a proper systematic way. So this is it.
Thank you. So record maintenance is something that was also identified by the earlier group, documentation issues that are there. And I think that's a common thread. Let's hear the group 1, what they have identified as issues and problems. Who is presenting from group 1? Hello. Bhai, bata di. Talia, are you? Okay, Kashif, right. Okay. Ah, what a serene picture. G. Kashif, we can't hear you. It's okay. We could see the document. Yes, but we just can't hear you. Should I read it? Okay. So there is governance training, and I think that again comes with staff preparedness and leadership preparedness for an accreditation visit. Then I don't know what curricular issues meant, but documentation is again there. Teamwork, again, staff attitude. I think that was what was also identified by Nouri. And professional training, again, I think it goes for preparedness, whether people are prepared. Yes, Talia?
Ma'am, by the curricular issues, we mean that there are certain things which are pointed out in the checklist, but it's not clear what actually do they want by that particular evidence.
So
And
lack
plus
of
the
clarity,
yeah,
clarity in the standards and criteria that are
yes,
provided to you, right?
and the training of the inspectors as well, that actually what they will be looking at, because some of them are, जैसे हमने पहले बात की, just ticking boxes, don't look into the context of why it is being asked or how it will be delivered, but they just want to see कि ये हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा है. So that's what we meant by the training.
Professional
And the
training.
rest, yeah, the rest of the things is discussed by the other groups as well.
Yes. Okay, so there are some things that are common, and I can see documentation everywhere. I can see training in at least two where there is preparedness, because the leadership, as well as the faculty, as well as the staff, everybody has to work together to complete this entire the process. It's not dependent. It's not one person who can do it or one department who can do it. So QEC cannot do it alone. DME cannot do it alone. There is a trail of documents, as Shams very rightly said. There's a trail of documents that have to be kept, and last minute minutes बनना और last minute minutes में चीजें डाली जाना, जो पुराने minutes थे उसमें भी additions हो जाते हैं. So those are things that happen, but that may not be the most appropriate thing to do, because the purpose of accreditation, as I say, is not penalizing. The purpose of accreditation is improvement. So when you go in with that frame of mind that we are going there to improve the situations and improve the quality, which ultimately improves the quality of education, that will ultimately reflect in improved health of the population and patients, then there is a different way in which you approach things. So I have gathered all the issues and problems that have been identified by the three groups. We will take them up in our next session and inshallah work in them in detail. If there are any questions that somebody wants to ask, please ask. Otherwise, please summarize if you have learned anything during this 1.5 hours or 1 hour and 10 minutes that we have spent together.
I have just a comment pertaining to accreditation, because it varies. Though there are bodies which has defined pro forma and checklist, what we say, boxes to tick, and there is also in the end comment section as well as. But some certain centers varies in minor variations. For example, there are certain remote centers where there is problem of the hiring faculty, or certain budget concerns for highly specialized sophisticated equipment or things required. So there is variance. It depends upon the inspector how he is going to deal the things. He should consider the standard of the education will suffer, but there may be compensation through MOU with sister university or sister institution, that this area or part of my is weak, and I will send my trainee or my student for certain time to go to visit there. So these are to be also kept in mind.
So what you are saying over here is that the standards need to be made in such a manner that they assist the institution in providing quality education by identifying, by MOUs, by working together, collaborating with institutions. And that is something, so contextual reality is something that is very important. दूसरी चीज जो शम्स ने बहुत अच्छी बात की और 2-3 दफा उसने कही, subjective element. Now, subjectivity is always there, but subjectivity is not necessarily a bad thing. When a lot of experts sit down together and agree at one point, then subjectivity supersedes objectivity. And that is what we are learning in assessment also. कि assessment के अंदर भी experts के opinion do matter. But however, it should not become the major concern कि जी everything is subjective. तो फिर वो challenge हो जाती है. There are legal issues that happen and people can challenge and appeal the decisions that are being made. Dr. Shams, this will be the last comment, and then we are going to...
Thank you, madam, for allowing me. When I talked about subjectivity, I bring in two other elements. One is subjective bias and one is objective bias. Because as human beings, we are biased towards other human behaviors. The objective bias can be spotted very easily if you look at the terms in psychology, but the subjective bias can be wrapped and, put in a very nice way, especially when you're fluent and have command over the language. You can put in so many things into the subjective bias. That's where the problem arises with accreditation processes. Because if you're talking about standards, then the standards have to be met in a particular way. That's my comment, and I hope that's food for thought when the biases need to be controlled, how they can be controlled, especially when you're talking about subjectivity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. अच्छा, मुझे एक बात बताइए कि आप लोगों के पास जब accreditation visits होते हैं, is your report reviewed by the inspectors when they come to visit? Do they read it before coming to you?
They come prepared with that. They already have gone through. They just look into it as well as they follow their own checklist.
Yes. So they are confirming. They want to come and confirm what you have written in that report. आपने जो लिखा है वो वाकई है भी कि नहीं है, तो वो confirm करने भी आ रहे होते हैं. So that is also one thing that we have to keep in mind कि जो भी हम लिखते हैं वो चीज़.
With evidence as well.
Exactly. So can somebody say कि इस पूरे discussion में क्या कुछ सीखा या नहीं सीखा? बस बातें हुई और निकल गए.
Yes,
नहीं, ये
ma'am.
सीखा कि कॉमन पेन्स हैं.
यस मैम. मैम, सारा कुछ रिवाइज हो गया कि जब हम एक्रेडिटेशन कराते हैं तो हमें किन किन चीजों का ख्याल करना है, और उम्मीद है कि आइंदा जब हमारा कोई विजिट होगा तो हम ज्यादा अच्छे तरीके से कराएंगे, क्योंकि पहले तो जो कोई कहता जाता था हम करते जाते थे, लेकिन आपने जैसे क्वालिटी ऑफ चेन बताई है, लिंक्स टू चेन ऑफ क्वालिटी, और फिर आपने जो सारे पैरामीटर्स बताए हैं, तो उन पे अब हम ज्यादा अच्छे तरीके से फोकस करेंगे, और बल्कि हम अभी से करते रहेंगे कि हमारी सारी प्रेपरेशन अच्छी होती रहे ताकि 11th आवर पे हमें ये सारा कुछ ना करना पड़े. मेरा ख्याल है कि अब हमारे लिए इजी हो जाए.
I hope so. जी शम्स.
I looked at the 4 pre-reading articles that were given. You know, Gohar Wajid and Essence were they have gone through those before, so I won't comment on those 2. But the other 2 were really interesting, which they talked about the accreditation process bringing its own issues and problems, the cost factor. So one thing I've, repeatedly seen happen in institutions, having worked in different institutions, that is not taken into account. When you talk about an accreditation process, and I remember this in 2011, or rather 2010, when one of the medical colleges, the International Medical College, applied for self-accreditation process to California, and the cost that was involved in it, so the process was stopped. Nobody looked at this needs to be factored into the budget. And still, I find when WFEMA was going to visit or not visit, or PMDC, no institution is keeping a separate fund for the accreditation process. accreditation processes are expensive processes. That has to be taken into account. And that's one thing which I learned during the session, that we are still not thinking in that manner, you know.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shams. So hopefully, in the next session, we will try to identify how others have addressed these issues that you all have identified today, and then we'll take it up from there. Thank you very much for your active participation, and I really appreciate your presence throughout the session.